Hello and welcome to Basel Tov, the courage and creativity of ADHD. I'm Jen.
I'm Ellen.
And I'm Annette.
And we are here with yet another delightful episode of ADHD Topics. So today is going to be fun. And just right out the gate, this is going to be our most NSFW episode to date. So if you happen to be somewhere where, you know, your grandma's listening in, or you'd just be presented with a really awkward situation if somebody were to overhear certain topics, you might just want to turn it off and come back to it later.
Mom and Dad,
save it on your phone, bookmark
turn
it,
off
whatever.
the podcast now.
Anyway,
I know my parents are listening.
Yeah. Also, all of our parents, if you are listening right now, just if you happen to be a parent of one of the Basel Tov ladies, please just turn it off and don't come back. Because and I don't mean to insult you, it's just that you're going to hear your daughters talking about sexual functions, you know, because this is a sex talk. So our topic today is ADHD, sexual health, and ADHD's relationship to sexual dysfunctions. So this is a topic that has some of us feeling, you know, kind of giggly, and some of us feeling like they'd rather crawl under their desk. So
that would be me.
Yep. Annette, what's your worry here?
I just don't want to talk about this shit with a camera and a microphone on.
Annette has far more decency than I've ever had in my life. So she is afraid that she's going to come off as slightly prudish. And, you know, I mean, women get judged, right? We get judged about our bodies. We get judged about our appearance. We get judged about our sexual habits and our eating habits and any other habits we have. So it's a legitimate concern. And mine is actually the polar opposite. I'm actually afraid that by comparison, I'm going to look like a complete whore. So, but, and you know, that's fine. It's fine. I've been pretty open about sexuality and, well, most aspects of sexuality for a pretty long time with many people, just because I didn't feel like conforming to the scare factory that was the Catholic Church. So, you know, there are going to be others that are like me that are like, yeah, I kind of went the other way on that. And then some people who are really heavily recovering from religious trauma who are very uncomfortable about talking about their bodies or sex or their needs. So this is going to be one of those fun episodes where everybody's going to be triggered by something different. Yay!
Yeah.
Trigger warning.
Good times.
Good times. So before we get into like how ADHD relates to sexual dysfunction, what I want to do is say what that actually is, because some people kind of they misconstrue it with other things. So sexual dysfunction, the Cleveland Clinic characterizes it as any problems that prevent a person or couple from experiencing satisfaction from their sexual activity. And they estimate that let's see, so it says some 43% of women and 31% of men report some degree of sexual dysfunction. And that's just out in the general population and not related to ADHD at all. That's just basic. So that's a pretty big swath of society that's out there, and they don't get any kind of gratification from their sexual activities, or maybe just a little bit, but not enough to be truly satisfying. So that is kind of alarming. Like when I looked at that statistic, I was like, wow, that's a lot. Like
that's a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about ADHD? Are the statistics a lot worse, I'm guessing?
Yeah. So
probably.
ADHD. Yeah. And just to, you know, kind of preface the ADHD one, because it mentions sexual dysfunctions in a plural way, because you can have different levels or different varieties of dysfunction. Like, you know, maybe you feel so uncomfortable that you just can't get in the mood or something like that. And that would be kind of a dysfunction. Whereas like erectile dysfunction is also a really commonly known dysfunction for sexuality, because, you know, there could be many reasons why that just won't happen. You won't get up. And it can happen to both men and women too. So basically, erectile dysfunction would be just one little sex goblin under a larger umbrella of sexual fuckery. And that's that's what that
we're gonna
amounts
talk
to.
about all the sex goblins, aren't we?
Some of them. I mean, a lot of them will end up mentioned in passing because I feel like there's so many of them that we would be here for hours, and we should probably just at that point make this into a sex podcast and just start listing off one after the other.
Yeah.
But a Dutch study that studied specifically people with ADHD found that their male patients with ADHD experienced 42% of them experienced some kind of sexual dysfunction, and 39% of women.
Damn.
So
it's interesting that the women are lower than the men.
Yeah, I know, right? Because I wouldn't have thought that originally, because there's so many stories out there in popular media about women, she can't get off. He does, she doesn't like sex. She doesn't want sex. And so you would kind of connect that with the whole sexual dysfunction thing, but apparently more men are suffering from it. So,
wow.
It'd be an interesting study to look at that and look at men who identify as asexual.
Yeah.
And see what rate of the men that identify as asexual, even women too.
Yeah.
At what rate do they have ADHD?
Oh, yeah. That's really
an interesting study for anybody who's doing research out there. There you go. A free topic.
I know, right? Like I didn't think about that, but yeah, I wonder if there is a correlation with, and to be fair, a lot of asexual people are completely satisfied with being asexual, so they don't consider it to be a sexual dysfunction for them at all, because they're perfectly happy and fulfilled in their lives. And that is 100% okay. Like, I'm not here to be like, you have to have sex or else you're weird. Like, that's just, we're going to try not to do that here, because I feel like the asexual crowd sometimes gets, like battered around the most in media. So anyway, additionally, that same study that I had mentioned, they found that 17% of their male study population and 5% of the female population of the study had a symptom, one or more symptoms of a sexual disorder as well. So a sexual disorder would be different because it's like a clinical thing that has like, some like a collection of symptoms to it. So hypersexuality would be more of a sexual disorder than a sexual dysfunction. And since ADHD is also characterized by impulsive behavior, you can imagine why we might be at a little bit of a higher risk for some of these, other, I mean, I don't know if some people probably consider this normal, and some people consider it bizarre, and some people don't even want to talk about it, and they're turning off their podcast right now. So yeah. So if you think about it, since we have the low impulse control, and then we've got like the neurological mess, or, I shouldn't say mess, I should say difference, because, it's all about perception, I guess. But
right. Sometimes it feels like a mess.
It does. Some days it really feels like a mess, and sometimes it feels like a work of art, and I shouldn't mess with it.
That's right.
But yeah, so you can easily imagine why somebody with ADHD who, at those rates of sexual unfulfillment would want to go down a potentially dangerous rabbit hole to try to get any amount of satisfaction in their lives. And, that's just kind of a shame. So I think like what ADHD people need to do here is we kind of have to get in touch with ourselves and be honest with ourselves and our partners about our needs. Like, if it's just us, then we don't have to have any potentially sticky conversations about it. But if we're partnered up, we're going to have to kind of, bite the bullet and have a chat with our partner and say, hey, I'm not really getting the fulfillment that I want out of our sex life. And then maybe start mentioning what that looks like for you and why that might be. And, not in a blameful kind of way. I should probably say that the rules for these kinds of chats are things like no blame, no guilt, and no shame. because otherwise it's going to turn an uncomfortable situation even more uncomfortable for everybody and probably not do what you want it to.
Totally.
But yeah. So anyway.
I don't want to have that conversation.
Nope.
Well, they're never easy, but sometimes they're necessary if there's an issue.
Yeah.
Or you could just stuff it.
Or that.
Does that count as a sexual activity?
Oh, stuffing your conversations? Yeah. Depends on where you stuff it.
Probably not.
If people could see the look on Annette's face right now, it's just amazing.
They will on the video. Everyone check out this. Check it out on YouTube.
Check out this
clip. Watch Annette squirm.
Yeah. Oh, poor Annette.
Yeah, that's the name of this podcast episode. It should be.
The Watch Annette Squirm episode. Yeah. So Annette she doesn't like to talk about her sexual anything, I guess. Preferences, action.
Oh, no, I like to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about it with camera and a microphone.
To the whole world.
All right. Well, that's fair. That's fair. That is fair. I mean, what we're doing isn't exactly like what most people do, where they kind of get around with their friends and they have a little chat and it's spicy 10 minutes, oh, no harm, no foul. And then they go about their day. No, we're going to be here over the internet for like close to an hour or whatever this turns out to be once it's edited. And, we doing what we do.
That's right.
I'm just gonna be really upfront and honest. I have had, since Jen was like, this is our topic, I've had panic attacks, like anxiety, like through the roof, because I really don't like to talk about my experience or because
that's okay.
It's private.
That's okay. I feel like I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm in the middle between you guys on this episode. I'm not, as adventurous as Jen, but, I feel like especially in the last couple of years, have kind of, especially lately, now that I'm in a new relationship, but,
yeah,
kind of experiencing that side of me again, like it kind of, and maybe we'll go into this, but I know all of us had kind of a religious upbringing, and that definitely can, take a role in like how you view your sexuality, how you view yourself.
Yeah, a lot of things can. Things like sexual assault, religious affiliation, how supportive your family life was growing up. Because if you were in one of those houses where every time you had any kind of question, you knew that you'd just get like a frying pan thrown at you, then of course you're going to feel uncomfortable at the mention of a sex talk. And I think a lot of people, I think these numbers are as high as we're seeing for the sexual dysfunction. I think it's because we're not treating this right as a society. And I mean, particularly where ADHD is concerned, obviously, because we're more impulsive, so more likely to, go out and try something that we shouldn't try at a time that's not appropriate, in a setting that's not appropriate, out in public, and just kind of make parents of those kids feel like embarrassed because they didn't have a good upbringing either in relationship to their sexuality. So, and that's something that I'm constantly trying to figure out as a parent myself, is how, when my kids have questions about their bodies and about like urges and about their development, how can I support them so they don't feel like it's weird, and so they don't feel like it's abnormal for them to ask or feel those things,
Yeah, totally. So, we got to break that cycle, do better for our kids.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just blatantly honest with my kids.
That's good.
They say, oh, where do babies come from? And I never said, oh, a magical fairy brings it or something. I was like, well, it comes out of the mom's hoo-ha.
Yeah.
And you didn't say hoo-ha. I hope you didn't say hoo-ha.
I did say hoo-ha. I did.
You got to say vagina.
No, they know the word. They know the word. I taught them the word, but I don't use that. And I said, if you're talking to a doctor, you can use that word, but mommy just doesn't
okay,
feel
maybe it's
comfortable
because
saying that
I was
word.
married to a urologist for so long, but I have always just used all the anatomically correct terms for everything. Like, I mean, and I remember, you know, when we were still married, he was always careful about that too. He was like, I don't want to use slang terms. I just want to use the regular terms, you know, just like kind of normalize them a little bit.
Well, the prosecutors and people who work with sexual assault victims say that, you know, especially with kids should know how to properly anatomically say what areas were touched and what was, because if you don't use the proper terminology, then it can get, you know, covered over, or it's not explicit. And so I have heard that by said through a lot of sexual therapists and also prosecutors.
That totally makes sense. I can see that as being a trick that groomers use, you know, using cute names for things. That's so gross.
Ew. Yeah.
Well, let's rip off this bandage, Jen.
Let's do it. Okay. I don't know about you guys, but to prepare for this episode, I just got super horny. How about you guys?
You know what? That is such a good idea. I should have done that. Why didn't I think
kidding.
of that? Damn it. And then poor Annette, her whole face that this is going to make for the best YouTube clips though. You know, silver lining because my faces are weird all the time. So her faces are going to have to be like, what we go off of here.
I'm ready to jump in.
All right. So right now what I've basically compiled is a short-ish list of things that we can do to like gain some sexual satisfaction in our lives. One of them I kind of already touched on, which was being honest with yourself and with your partner. And that does include having a talk about it. Like Annette, you know, she's, you know, kind of squirming over here, and she might not squirm that much in a chat with her husband, but like there are some people who would, because it's just so uncomfortable for them. They had a really bad experience in the past, or they've been judged harshly, and they don't want to have the most important person in their life, you know, judge them as harshly as they've been judged before. So that's understandable, but we kind of have to get past that.
Even if I wanted to have a conversation with my husband, I would have to do this conversation in a second language. Yeah. So no, thank you.
That's true. I didn't think about that. Plus you have, you know, you've been living in Japan for a really long time now, and like Japanese culture, what does that look like in terms of
Japanese people be freaky? What are you talking about?
Like, well, I didn't know, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
Are they like out in public?
Not
like
everyone,
cares?
But there is that. Oh, no. The people don't even really hold hands so much or hug or show any signs of public affection. Oh, but like behind closed doors, apparently they're
just kinky as fuck, right? I mean,
well, there's a whole idea called hentai.
Oh yeah.
And hentai, hentai is like kind of being
anime taken to the next level.
Well, hen means strange, right? Oh. And hentai is like you are of a strange mind, kind of you are of a strange group, like thinking kind of thing. And so it's
okay.
Did it start in Japan?
So hentai?
Yeah, is that where it started?
Well, the word is Japanese.
Okay, so probably.
But I think
it probably did.
It loosely translates.
I mean, I would walk into my son's room and there'd be like anime tits out. So, I mean, I'd be like, yeah.
Oh,
did you have to have an awkward conversation? Or did you stuff that one?
No, because I stuffed it so hard.
And that is not a euphemism, folks.
No.
No.
Okay, I'll remind everybody that my son is I shouldn't even talk about my son, but my son is my stepson. So, if there was a conversation to be had, that is not my conversation to have.
True. Yeah. There's
Very
something
true.
to be said about, about biological parents being there at least, or in some way facilitating the conversation, whether it's an introduction or whether it's, just a, hey, you can go talk to this person. It's okay. So, but yeah. So hentai, would that like basically translate into kink here?
I think kink is just kink.
All right. I didn't know if there's no direct translation for this idea. It's more like a lifestyle, huh?
Well, it's a whole
it's just
like
a genre. I think it's just a genre of porn, basically. Animated porn.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if it like extended beyond that.
No, it does.
Oh, okay.
It does. Because it's a legitimate word.
Okay.
Like, it's not just a genre. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess that kind of, that's a good thing because they're getting, they get in touch with an entire lifestyle of getting to know themselves on that level. And I don't feel like Americans do that. I feel like we just, a lot of us hide what we want and what we need from each other instead of having the hard conversation of, hey, you know what? I don't like to be touched like that. I'd prefer to be touched like this instead. And that's something that you absolutely have the right to do inside of a marriage or outside of a marriage, whatever. Like, I hope people can get on board with that. Like, let's normalize that. Just
absolutely.
Yeah, you should advocate for yourself.
Yeah, totally. And then, so if you're opening up, you're having the hard conversations, you can then, kind of unlock a deeper level of intimacy with your partner. Uh-oh. What's this?
What?
If you're opening
See, we've gotten to her. She's making jokes now. Yes. Okay.
How many puns can you find in this episode?
We should have had a counter. Another thing that we can do, especially for ADHD people, this one is really important, but it's important for everybody, but particularly us, is to vary your sexual routines. Even if you're just by yourself and you're going it solo, mixing it up and trying different things like different toys, different techniques, between couples or alone is really valuable because we have a short attention span. And once the novelty effect of something wears off, we're just like, okay, bored, done with it, whatever. And that's not the time to be bored, folks. Like
that's what I was reading when I was looking on Reddit and doing a little research on this topic. That's what I realized is that a lot of people were saying, I'm into BDSM or I've got these kinks because it keeps it interesting. It keeps me focused.
Right.
And, sometimes a little bit of pain is good and, can keep me in the moment. So I totally get that for ADHD. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I think I get that too. Like just staying in the moment. Cause like I'm one of those people who, well, first of all, I live in a green state and it seems like I really, really like to be high in that moment because it helps me focus. It helps me like clear out all of the other intrusive thoughts. Because that's something ADHD people suffer from is just intrusive thought after intrusive thought that leads you down a mental rabbit hole. And, you start being in the moment with your partner intimately. And then you end up with, wait, didn't we need another box of light bulbs? I think the light in the bathroom's out. Like,
totally. Or I should paint the walls.
Yeah, these walls are just not the color I wanted. Should go over to Home Depot.
I mean, for me, it depends on if you're into the person or not,
Oh, yeah.
If you're not, then you're going to be thinking about that paint on the wall. Yeah.
Well, even if you're into the person, like if you're in a long-term relationship, things can get boring.
Oh, yeah,
that's
totally.
True. Yeah, because then the novelty effect of the new scenario, the new person, the new relationship has worn off. And that's something that, even neurotypical people suffer from. It's not just us on that. But for people with ADHD, it could cause a sexual dysfunction scenario because there's not enough dopamine circulating to keep us paying attention to the same thing, no matter how interested we are.
I think that's why a lot of people cheat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's an impulsive behavior too. That, ADHD people are, I imagine, I didn't look this one up to be sure, but I imagine we could be more likely to cheat on a partner just simply because it was an impulse in that moment. We acted on it. And then later, the shame of it or the guilt of it, or maybe thinking, you know what, maybe I am kind of done with that relationship. Like maybe it's a moment of clarity even. Because you make mistakes, you learn something, right? Not to say that it's the right thing to do, just saying that any mistake could potentially be learned from.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But another thing that we could do is read about new sexual skills. Like as much as, varying your sexual routine is, Annette's the face. That was glorious. I'm sorry, Annette. So if we read articles about sexual health and like our bodies and how they operate and how many hacks we can stuff into one sexual encounter, maybe that might benefit us, because some of us have trouble. I'm just getting glared at over video right now by Annette. It's amazing. But some of us have trouble.
What do you even do with that? What do you even do with that browser history? I mean,
private browser. You delete your history. Do whatever you need to do to get comfortable.
I don't know. I'm one of those that like, I'm so open about it that I'll take it directly to my husband. I'll be like, hey, did you know about this thing that you could do? Oh my God, look at this picture. And he'll be like, what?
Okay, I have to give a quick recommendation to a website. It's called badgirlsbible.com. And it's such fucking a great awesome. One. Oh yeah, have you seen it too? Yeah. They've got all the positions etched out. I mean, it does a great job of just explaining things. I highly recommend Bad Girls Bible to everyone. Check it out.
You know what?
You'll be inspired.
I can't remember if it was the Bad Girls Bible where I saw this, but the other day I was feeling like, maybe things were getting too same for me again. And maybe I needed to figure out another way to spice things up for me personally. Not that my partner is uninteresting, because he's definitely not. He's wonderful, but I have the short attention span problem, and that contributes to a difficulty with climaxing for me. Just as some ADHD women can have this hypersensitivity effect because of neurology, I'm kind of the other way around, where I'm less sensitive than probably is normal and takes what?
Wait, hypersensitivity is a thing?
Yeah, hypersensitivity. Yeah. Extra overloads of sensitivity is one of the correlating things for ADHD. I think Annette had a light bulb moment.
No, well, that explains so much.
Yeah, it does, right? So Annette, clearly Annette and I are on like two separate ends of this spectrum, and Ellen is in the unfamiliar central spot here.
Okay, I'm gonna overshare just one thing. It's not gonna be a huge overshare, yes, but like, yeah, I never have a problem getting to the O. Oh. Like, I'm faster than my husband, so
whoa, good for you.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, when I'm done, I'm like, get off. I'm not going for round two. It's just not gonna happen. So I'm sensitive. I'm like I've always felt like a guy.
Interesting. Yeah. So one and done. Yeah. You're just one and done.
One and done. One great big and I'm done.
Damn. All right.
Yeah.
I can definitely go for. I can go for 2 or 3 usually.
Oh God! If somebody touched,
mine are completely different than that, because mine feel different every time, and I feel like my neurology is really shifty sometimes, because like sometimes it'll be really low key and I'll be like, is that even an orgasm? And then it'll just kind of keep building and building and building. And I don't know if I'm having separate orgasms or if I'm going for the big one later. Sometimes that does happen, and I'll have to go through like 5 or 6 rounds of maybe it's an orgasm and maybe it's not, to figure out that, oh wait, no, it's this one over here that's the winner. Like,
yeah, or it was a baby, it was a baby orgasm this time, yeah. I'm kind of the same way. You never really know what exactly you're gonna get, and they're a little different. They're all unique. It's like each orgasm is like a snowflake, just its own unique, beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know. And like,
I can't relate at all.
Yeah. That's okay. You're fine. Everyone's fine. Whatever you are, you're great just the way you are.
Exactly.
There is no normal.
Well, like, so, because a lot of people, they'll be like, 3 or 4 or 5. And it's like, I feel like I hear that from women a lot. And I'm like,
yeah, maybe you are a little sensitive.
Yeah, it's possible that there's some hypersensitivity.
I've never once.
But that's great that you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a shut down. Don't touch me. Like, it's.
And that kind of, does that ever like kind of like in the beginning or at any point, did you ever feel like, oh, well, I should be a certain way? And was that like disappointing to realize that you weren't going to be able to?
I felt like I was weird because everybody keeps talking about this thing and like I'm
about
like,
multiple orgasms.
I've never experienced that ever, and I mean,
that's great that you don't have trouble though. I mean, that's great that you're you can always get there. I mean, I think a lot of women really struggle with that. Like I know there's some women that I've seen just posting online that have said, I don't know if I've ever had an orgasm. So that could be you if you're listening. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't I really don't think that I had true orgasms until I was in the current relationship that I'm in now. So I'm one of those.
Oh, interesting.
Forever I was just like, maybe it's just very underwhelming to be a woman. Like that was just my takeaway was, but then I also had this kind of weird conflict because, there's a certain amount of keeping the peace that I used to have to do in my relationships previously because they were abusive. So I didn't dare come out and say, hey, I'm not feeling sexually fulfilled by what we're doing here. Could we try shaking it up? That would have been, grounds for a serious problem. So instead, I just had internal conflicts, like maybe this is really all there is for me. And then later on going, but wait a minute, why is it so much better when I masturbate? Like, why is it so much fucking better? Like, so it's, light bulb. It didn't come on until recently, honestly, I guess. Well,
I mean, I know this is probably obvious, but I feel like that is the best way to get to find out what you like. Just have fun with yourself, like experiment. That's how you figure out what works for you, and then you can communicate that to your partner.
Yeah. And like, it's funny because as outspoken as I've always been about sexuality and sexual topics, like inside my own house behind closed doors, I was almost the very opposite, where I was afraid to experiment because of the past traumas that I had experienced regarding like, just shutdowns or mockery or, whatever it might have been, religious trauma. I was really, hesitant to try a lot of things at first.
Oh yeah, we could talk about religious trauma all day.
Yeah.
That's basically
what we can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's basically a big part of my life, honestly. I mean, I know I shared some of my story in the last episode, but yeah, I was shamed for my sexuality when I was a teenager, and so because of that, the next relationship I sought out was one where we were not attracted to each other, and we didn't kiss for a year, I think, after we started dating, quotes. And looking back, I felt, because of my religion, I was like, oh, this is what's safe. You're supposed to wait until you get married and just hold on, don't let out any of those feelings. Just hold them all in, you got to wait for your wedding night. And but that's tough, because I did not, I mean, I'll just share here. I cried on my wedding night because I was so disappointed And,
oh, no.
you know, yeah, I was like, shit, is this all this is? Like, I waited this long for this, you know?
Damn it.
I don't think my ex-husband is going to listen to this podcast, so.
Yeah. It's probably a good thing for him.
I feel fine sharing. But yeah. So, I mean, because of my religion, I purposefully sought out, dated, and married someone that I was not sexually attracted to because I felt like that was the right thing to do, which is kind of fucked up in retrospect.
It is.
You know?
It's really fucked up. And it speaks to the level of control that religions aspire to, in my opinion.
Oh, that book. I Kissed Dating Goodbye. I know a lot of people read that book, you know? And that author, I think, has even come out and said he regrets writing that book at this point. So I could be wrong.
It contributed cut that out if I'm wrong. To purity culture.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Purity culture. Yeah. It fucked us all over. All of us women.
It did. Yeah, absolutely.
The purity rings and everything.
Oh, God,
that's so disgusting. Like marrying one of your parents. Like how
Wait, is that how a purity ring works? I never had one.
No, a purity ring is you get a ring that you wear on this as a promise that you are not going to have sex with anybody until you get married.
That's how it started out. But sometime in the early 2000s, it morphed into this weird cultural phenomenon within Christianity in the Bible Belt in the central part of the United States, where there would be like legit ceremonies and little tiny white dresses for these little girls or teenagers that were coming of age. And it almost looked like, you know, the white people's version of a quinceañera, some of these photos that I've seen. But they're, you know, it's these girls promising to their dad, oh no, we're going to wear these matching rings and I promise I'll never have sex until I'm married. And it just,
oh my God, that's so awful.
Gross that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's, just on the flip side of that. Okay. So, you read this book. Like Ellen and I grew up in the same church, so yeah, there you go.
And I was just a deviant visitor.
You were.
Yes, you were. I dragged her in. But like you would read the books and you would, you know, hear all this talking and hear the sermons from your youth pastors and all these things. Then you meet somebody, and full disclosure, I had sex before I was married with my ex-husband.
Sinner.
I mean, we were getting married.
Oh,
I know, right?
Oh my God.
But that's the thing is, like, we can say that as a joke now, but
back then,
the guilt.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, but the guilt, even now, the guilt that I carry, I
you need to let go of
you know,
that.
it's like I've processed, but still, you know, just because you go to therapy or you fix something doesn't mean that they don't, you know, your old wounds don't never come back to haunt you.
Totally understand.
So, but so that messes with it. And probably a lot of the reason that I'm very uncomfortable talking about it is because of that.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the other book that fucked us over was The 5 Love Languages, because the part that was written by a pastor, not a therapist or licensed practitioner. Ooh. It was by a pastor, and the part about physical touch is just basically the bottom line is, ladies, if your husband wants sex, just give him sex, you know, just treat it like a chore. And don't think about your own needs, you know, just do it, you know, basically make him happy, do whatever it takes. It's so fucked up.
Yeah. That is fucked up. Fun fact, marital rape was not against the law until like the mid to late 90s, by the way.
Oh, God.
Just fun fact. I'm going to stick that in there. Anyway, I know, right? But so this, you know, kind of opens things up a little bit for... Yes, it opens it up, and then it opens it up for...
You know, I'd have 30 things to say if there was not a camera on.
Yep.
That's the funny thing. I'm actually very raunchy when I'm joking around with my friends. It's just,
I know.
Yeah,
you know,
this is not the format for
puts me in a
Annette.
different vibe.
We get your wild side on off camera.
We do. Yeah. Yeah, we do. And it's great. Like, Annette is hilarious, and I have loved being such great best friends with Annette and Ellen forever because their senses of humor are just amazing.
We were saying that about you too before you jumped on today.
Oh, thank you.
We were talking about how funny you are.
Yeah. I try. It's, you know, a lot of my sense of humor has come from just trying to play off negativity, to be honest. And, you know, some of it was surrounded by this very same topic, the guilting, the shame. I mean, I'm not sure if Ellen knows about this, but Annette might remember how many rumors got passed around about me and my potential sexual activities during high school. It was just ridiculous. And I had to go in and deal with that. Like, I had to deal with boys, like,
what was the worst rumor?
Like, knocking me down and trying to take my bra off in a classroom.
Oh my God.
Or like I was, you know, sexually harassed, you know, borderline assaulted at school, and mocked and humiliated constantly. And a lot of it was surrounding my body parts, my appearance, and my sexual, what other people thought was my sexual activity, which is hilarious because if anybody really knew that I had, like, that I, you know, currently in my life have had sex with so few people that I can count them on one hand,
me too.
Yeah, then I mean, that would just be, it would have been laughable to them at the time.
Yeah,
but
I mean, I could count them on one hand and lose a couple fingers and still be fine.
I couldn't lose too many fingers, but I can get it onto one hand. But, you know, sexual liberation is a thing right now out in culture, especially for women. And right now, I don't know, there's something in the air, and that electrical something is called big clit energy. Annette, you knew I was going to turn this into garbage science. You knew. I have to do it. So yes.
I'm bracing myself.
I was stalking the internet one evening because I sometimes look for things to just kind of spice things up here and there to keep my own self focused during a sexual escapade. And I think it might have even been the Big Girls, or not the Big Girls. What am I talking about?
Different
the Bad Girls Bible, the Big Girls Bible. Yeah. I don't even know what that would mean. But the Bad Girls Bible, or it might have been a similar kind of website where I fell into this rabbit hole. And I'm not a huge Redditor all the time like Ellen and Annette are, but I found myself on Reddit because I saw the phrase big clit energy, and I was like,
yes.
What? Because we've heard about big dick energy left, right, and sideways. It's a new thing. People, you know, talking about, oh, it's big dick energy, it's small dick energy, whatever. And I always thought it was just ridiculous and kind of funny. But then I saw big clit energy, and I'm like, what is this? So I go there, and I'm reading this.
I want that.
Yeah, it sounds alluring on the surface. It sounds like, what is this? And so I go there, and it's an article about a new movement that has begun on Reddit, and just kind of, I think it's starting to spiral out beyond there, because even Cosmopolitan did an article on it. It's the Grow Your Clit movement. And yeah, I know. Annette, that was the exact same face I made when I read those words too. I was just like, what?
So
now?
why would one want to grow their clit? Tell us.
There's two variations on this story.
And do you fertilize it? How do you grow it?
I think fertilizing it is the goal, actually. Yeah, but but
you guys are going to hell.
I love it.
That I've already traded Satan for air conditioned seats. I'm fine. So
BCE.
Anyway, how do we get the BCE, the big clit energy? Well, that depends on how far you want to go, because some of this is like, it's involved, and it's like medical science, and you know, it makes some people feel uncomfortable, and also there is a little bit of an issue potentially with the trans community because of what it hinges on here. So method 1 is you grab a pump, a clit pump, and you pump
like
it
off
up
Amazon?
and yeah, they do have them on Amazon. And I would know that because oh my God, I have one right here.
Oh, hell
if
yeah.
anyone wants to go to our YouTube channel and see this very interesting clip of me bouncing this rubbery tube up and down.
Dude,
look how floppy it is.
Let me put the rest of it. It looks like you could go scuba diving with that thing.
This is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. I took one for the team here for science, guys. And I was like, I'm going to fucking try this out so I can talk about it with some degree of certainty. And
hell yeah. Thank you, Jen.
I thought this was going to be something you could stuff in your purse and be like, oh, look how discreet it is. No, it's
pump your clit
giant.
at the coffee shop. Yeah, no.
But it's safer than a lot of the smaller alternatives too, because there's a pressure gauge on it that you can actually see a safe pressure. Like, you don't go too far and cause yourself an injury on literally the most sensitive part of your body. So I'll take this big chunky stupid thing.
What would you even Amazon to find that? Like, what did you search?
I searched the word clit pump, and this is, let's see if you can hear does it? Oh, what's it? It's kind of, it's stuck a little. There we go.
Oh.
Can you hear it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Anyway. It comes with attachments. This is not all there is to it. You don't have to, shove this up anything's little hose. Basically, for the people who can't see this right now, it's really big plastic trigger system with a floppy rubber hose connected to it and a little plastic tip that comes out to almost a point, and a pressure gauge that looks like scuba gear. It really does look like scuba gear. And we have these fun little attachments that go on the end of it. For those who are listening, these things look like nipple suckers, basically. If you've been onto a lot of...
I was just gonna ask if you can use it on nipples.
You can. You could.
Why would you want... What?
In fact, they have a set of these that you can buy
just
extra that are nipple suckers.
Watch and learn.
Yeah.
Really?
And you put them on the... Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so you just...
There you go.
Why?
Because some people like to have their nipples stimulated when their clit is being stimulated. It helps them.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people, if you couldn't guess.
I am too.
But
I like a little nipple play.
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
And so one of these is just slightly bigger than the other. One of them I can fit my pinky finger down, and that's about the width that it is. And the other one is more like a middle finger or index finger width. And those would be like the two smallest settings that you could have. And then there's a third. Look at this. This thing is bigger than my thumb. Boy. It's like
that works on dicks.
It's like,
right?
It would have to work on a micro penis, to be honest.
Because maybe it looks bigger on camera.
It might.
It might. She said.
No, this setup is actually a setup that I didn't know what size to get and what would be comfortable for me. Because, bodies come in all shapes and sizes, and some clits are just bigger than others. And, that's why this whole movement was born about growing your own clit. And, some people wanted bigger, more luscious clits.
I just keep picturing, I keep picturing a potted plant with a clit growing out of it, like grow your own clit. Water it, talk to it sometimes. Like, oh, I'm so proud of you.
Definitely fertilize it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the biggest one for those who are listening.
How you doing down there?
Just wants to say hello. That's all.
Grow your own clit right on your windowsill.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. But the biggest attachment here would technically be either fit like a micropenis or somebody with something called clitoral megaly, which is a condition where you have an oversized, large clitoris, and that could be from, a combination of different things, but usually it's like, hormonal things, or maybe like some kind of gender confusion within the body when the baby's being made, and then they grow up and they have kind of a, what is it? We don't know.
Sure.
So, that can happen. And so there's, a couple different sizes. So some people are getting this set and starting on this, small little size and working all the way up to the big one because in addition to doing this, they are also applying androgens and testosterone. I think it's the same thing that trans men would inject normally, and they're just putting it directly on their clit. Is by the sounds of it, if I read all of this stuff on Reddit correctly, this is what it sounds like to me. And yeah, so they put it directly on there, and then over a period of weeks, months, and years, it ends up creating a much larger clitoris that looks like it's, verging on either clitoromegaly or a micropenis, depending on, an anatomy. It could look wildly different.
Sure.
But, that's... and I could, and I also couldn't believe there was a subreddit for this. But, I was just fascinated. I was like, wow, this is something I had never even considered. Like, does the size of my clitoris, what does it matter? And so I started reading. Well, apparently it can matter, because people who have a smaller clitoris might have less sensitivity, and people who have a larger clitoris might have a lot more. So there are two reasons why
Annette
people...
probably doesn't want to tell us the size of her clitoris, but
I didn't to be fair, I did not even know what it would mean to have a large or small clitoris, because we never talk about that as a culture. We talk about, like, guys, they can, what size are they? We have like ranges, and it's broken down sometimes even by like race, which is really kind of silly, because I don't even think that it I don't know. I don't think it matters. Like, that aspect probably doesn't matter as much as we want to think it does. But anyway, we don't talk about the size of clitorises ever.
Yeah, not really.
I've literally never before, until I saw that subreddit, never considered talking about, hey, my clitoris, I'm wondering if it's undersized.
I've never taken a ruler and measured it before.
Right, like, and how would you? Because a good amount of it is actually covered up in other tissue. So like, we wouldn't even be able to get an accurate. Yeah. So the only way you can tell is by comparing yourself to other people, or comparing photos of yourself initially to like the end product after you're done with all these hormones. Now, I'm kind of in the middle of like an experiment, because I'm kind of like, I did not want to go and try to get these hormones, because number one, they're already hard enough to come by for the trans community. And there are some people who feel like, hey, a whole bunch of cisgender women going in and getting the hormones that we have trouble getting our hands on just because they want a bigger clit, like, outside of their sexual identity, it doesn't sit right with them. And I can kind of like, I can see why. I could see why that would create a certain amount of emotional tension for them.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me. So I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole right now. But also, I have an endocrine disorder called polycystic ovarian syndrome that makes it so I already have more androgens than normal inside of my body and circulating. So that's why I have an amped up sex drive, and I want sex more than other people, which also ADHD does not help, by the way. So I'm kind of, messed over on 2 levels there. But I'm currently seeing if I use these fun little gadgets enough, will I get big clit energy? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Like, I'm going to see.
And you're going to report back to us.
I will report back after. Well, it's going to take a while. So, I mean, you guys would have to be long-time listeners to figure it out.
Find out next year.
Find out in 6 months. Yeah. I never considered that was a possibility, but it kind of makes sense if you think about like biology and how the hormones work in the body. And I'm just like, oh, well, I already have excess hormones. Maybe I wouldn't even need them.
Yeah.
Good point. With enough stimulation, perhaps I will grow a large clit, or maybe I won't. I don't know. Yeah. We're going to find out.
Okay. So in summary, one thing that you can try is getting a clit pump.
Getting a clit pump, or if you're a dude, you could get a penis pump. We've heard about these things forever. They've been the butt of so many jokes, but they can help guys just as much as they can help ladies. And I mean, I have to tell you, there are times when I am so distractible that I do have a hard time actually becoming aroused, not mentally, but physically. So that would put me in the category of like erectile dysfunction for women. And having something that can help get the blood into the more sensitive areas is really helpful for me, because that actually helps me focus on it better, ironically, is what I found.
Makes sense.
Because it's like there, and then it's distracting me from everything else. And I'm like, oh, hey there. And then I can focus, and it's wonderful. And it's actually like some of the best sex I've ever had. It's great.
That's awesome, dude. I'm happy for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for
sharing marvelous. That. Yeah, you're welcome. Just my big clit energy and whatever. It's my big clit energy is now yours.
I can see you got big clit energy.
Yeah.
I once was given a sex toy from a friend, and it had a clit sucker on it on one side, and then a little part that sticks in, so you just kind of like set it down there and it does everything. And it broke, but it was marvelous. I think that the dildo had a really funny name. It was called Tracy's Dog. I don't know why, but
God,
you could probably find it online. I highly recommend it. Yeah.
Do you really not know why it would be named that?
I don't know. We I mean, I talked about it with my friends too. I remember a couple of them got the same one actually, and yeah, Tracy's Dog. So it's a good one. It's not a very powerful suction. It doesn't look anything like the thing you have, but it helps.
I feel like I know why why it's named that way, and I don't want to know why it's named that way.
I'm gonna say it has something to do with peanut butter and too much time by yourself.
Oh
God. Exactly. See? That's what I was taught.
That's animal abuse.
Yeah, in this state it would be. So, yeah. But
just get yourself a dildo.
Yeah, get yourself one of the little clit sucking dildos and you'll be fine.
Or don't.
Or do whatever you want.
Or don't. Yeah.
We won't tell you what to do. We're just going to tell you what we do.
To be honest, I don't like the vibration aspect. I've never, I used to use vibrators and I felt like they really desensitized me to a terrible degree where I couldn't even come close to anything sexually being satisfying for me. So I had to stop and stay stopped, basically.
Yeah. I like to use. Yeah, I don't ever use like anything too intense because same. I don't want to become desensitized.
Yeah.
I don't use sex toys.
That's okay.
Yeah. Or you could just not use them. I don't use them anymore except for this clit pump now that I've got hidden under my arm or whatever.
I recommend everybody get lube. Lube is awesome for everybody.
Oh yeah. P.S. You have to use lube with one of the pumps.
No, you don't.
You absolutely.
Oh, with the pump.
You do have to use it with the pump. You will tear your skin. You will absolutely tear your skin.
Ooh.
And you don't want to. You don't want
No.
to. You want this to be a good thing.
Yeah. Lube is great.
It is great.
Yeah, I don't have any problems in that area either.
That's good.
That's probably
good for you.
because of the sensitivity. Because, like, when you become physically aroused, like, women are programmed to just kind of, dump out the natural lube. And if you don't become physically aroused, you can't get as much of that. So, I mean, I was starting to rely on lube a little bit too much because I was really struggling, and it was all the ADHD for me, unfortunately. So once I got my medication, I felt like that aspect improved a little bit. And then once I started experimenting with the right strains of marijuana and with the right music and with, now this clit pump, like, hey, I'm ready. Like, I can do this. I
Man,
can do
you got
this,
it
guys.
down.
I've taken the training wheels off and I'm riding my bicycle like a big girl.
That's right. You're riding it.
Yeah. But yeah, so my husband is if he listens to this, he's going to be like, oh my God, because he's a lot like Annette, actually. And like, he has so many sensibilities from growing up in the South. And,
so proper.
They're not exactly body positive in the South in the 1970s. So it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
So
and
he's probably never listening to this.
one quick thing I wanted to mention too was that after you have kids, everything kind of changes down there too. And so that's kind of when I got hooked on lube is, after that.
That's an interesting point because I had a C-section.
I wonder if that makes a difference. Yeah.
I have nothing changed down there for me. Personally.
Good for you, girl.
I don't know if that's everybody's experience, but for me, nothing changed. I'm virginal down there.
That she technically had a virgin birth. Oh my God. Yeah. That would be interesting to know if having a C-section could prevent some kind of damage that would lead to less sensitivity and the need to use more lube and the need to have more sex toys in your life.
I know I don't pee my pants when I sneeze like my sister, so.
Oh, yeah, you are lucky.
No comment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Oh, God. It's just, you know what? Like, yeah, just
my second kid had a really big head too.
Both of mine had really big heads, and they were almost the same size. My daughter came out sunny side up, and she was like 8 pounds 12 ounces, so they were almost the exact same size, and it just one right after the next, and my bladder has never been the same.
Yeah, my kids paved their way out.
Wah wah.
Rip to my pussy.
Damn it. Same. I feel like
it's been enough years now.
Crying a small tear of identifying with yours.
Oh God. They did. I remember with my second kid, I asked them how many stitches, and they said, "Oh, we don't really count. We're not counting." I was like, "What?"
Ooh, that sounds like my first need to know birth. That.
Oh, your first. Yeah. Oh dear. I think I just had 2 stitches with my first. Yeah.
My first was pretty traumatic because I almost bled to death first of all.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I had a really complicated first birth where I literally almost died and had a bunch of stitches. I was hemorrhaging everywhere. So if anybody has reason to have, lasting effects from birth, it's probably me.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And yet I never put 2 and 2 together. So,
I'm glad you're here.
Yay, me too. Yeah, me
thanks. Too. All right, so where were we? So... We just went down a rabbit hole.
Super, not even the fun rabbit hole.
I know, God.
But anyway, so just to summarize what we've heard here, if you've got ADHD, chances are you might be one of the, oh God, what is it like? Basically 1/3 to 1/2 of the ADHD crowd that suffers from some kind of sexual dissatisfaction, dysfunction, or whatever, disturbance.
One of the
and,
Ds.
Yeah. And you just, like, we have to do what's right for us. That means kind of, bearing our souls to one another, making sure we're honest with ourselves and our partners. And, maybe if you're a lady, or even if you're not, going for the big clit or big dick energy. I don't know. Since we turned this into garbage science. but yeah, so just be good to yourself and your partner, and
I feel like
do
everyone,
what's right.
Right, do what's right for you. I feel like everyone deserves pleasure, however they want to experience that. And if you identify as asexual, or you're just not really that interested in sex, don't ever feel like there's something wrong with you. That's just the way you are. Maybe you don't need as much as other people. That's totally fine. But I feel like everyone should deserve to get what they want.
Exactly. Yeah. Just as long as you're comfortable, you're satisfied. I mean, because, like, if you're not satisfied with your sex life, it has been shown that, that does bleed out into the rest of your life. It can make you cranky. It can make you, downright unlikable sometimes if you're cranky enough and tense enough. And, sometimes it might contribute to things like depression or anxiety, or, just maybe a warped image of who you are as a person. And none of that's necessary. We just have to drop the guilt and the shame aspect and go for the gold, even if it's if it's by yourself or with 1, 2, 3, or 4 extra partners. Who cares? Just
whatever you want, just do it. Live your life, live your best life. Get that pleasure.
Nike's been telling us forever, just do it, and they're right.
Exactly. Just buy a clit pump. That's all there is to it.
Just buy the clit pump. Just buy it.
Just do it.
But anyway, I guess that's really all we have, because now it's devolved into nothing but clit pump jokes and whatever.
Clit pump jokes for days.
Yep. In summary, be good to yourself and each other. And if you keep listening, you might get to hear if I have big clit energy.
Oh, yeah. Stay horny, everyone.
Right. Stay horny and also stay satisfied. So
that's right.
Now we'll just leave you with that. Thank you for listening, guys. I know it's been a long one. Hey, but we're glad to have you here for it. And as always, Basil time.
Basil time!